All right, so we're this close into getting into trade season, and we know all the usual suspects for the trade deadline this year. You got Luis Robert, Sandy Alcantara, but I want to talk about a few players that could be surprise trade candidates that might not seem like it now, but maybe could emerge as we get closer to the deadline. Let's go talk about it. Before we get started, though, just reminding you that we are partnered up with Underdog here, and we're very close to hitting our goal for signups for the month. I know we talk about baseball here, but the conference finals are hot in basketball right now, and they got plenty of ways to win some cash. As for baseball, well, there's plenty of ways to win there as well. And for me tonight, I'm going to go with a few over-unders. Cody Bellinger and Bryce Harper are hot lately, with Belly going up against a terrible Rockies team with bad pitching, while Harper's going up against a struggling A's team. So I think they both perform well tonight. And Tyler Mahle, who has been very good this year, I think should be able to get 18 outs against a weak White Sox team. Again, we are almost at the end of the month, and we're very close to hitting our sign-up goal. So if you can help me out, I'll love you forever. All you got to do is go to the description, download the app with the link, use the code HIDE, and you get up to $1,000 in bonus credits. Let's start off with a few players on the Blue Jays. Now you might be thinking, Robbie, the Blue Jays are in second place in the American League East right now. They're ahead of your Red Sox, for crying out loud. What the heck are you talking about? Well, yes, as of right now, the Blue Jays are holding their own. They're 25-24, 5 back in the division, 2 back in the wild card hunt. So they are right there in the thick of things, and they've won their last 3 games at the time of this recording. I just wonder about the Blue Jays moving forward. Now, taking a look at some of the rankings here, offensively, they've been doing okay. They're 14th overall in offense, but when it comes to runs scored, they're only 20th overall. Now, taking a look at some of the players here, guys like George Springer, Bo Bichette, they're having good bounce back seasons this year. You know, Vlad, he's still doing pretty solid. The power is down a little bit. Slugging is only at a 421. Nathan Lukes, he's been a nice surprise this year, but someone like Anthony Santander, you know, he is really underperforming at this point. He is not living up to that contract that he got. You know, Andres Jimenez, he's really just going to be a glove guy, not really too much for the bat, but you'd like to see a little bit more out of the bat with him. You know, Ernie Clement, not really doing all that much. So I just wonder, you know, is this offense going to keep having ups and downs moving forward? But where I'm a little skeptical about this Blue Jays team is the pitching side of things. Now, when it comes to the bullpen, they've been very good. Remember last year, they had one of the worst bullpens in Major League Baseball. They actually ranked dead last in Fangraph wins above replacement when it came to relief pitching. But this year, they're 8th overall so far. So that is a massive difference. 3.71 ERA, 3.61 on the FIP, over 10 strikeouts per 9. You know, they added Jeff Hoffman this past offseason, so that has really helped out. But when it comes to the starting pitching, this is where I'm a little worried here. They're 26 overall in starting pitching. Fangraph wins above replacement so far. ERA at a 4.39. FIP at a 4.67. You know, taking a look at some of the guys here, you know, Bassett, he's been solid. Gosman, ERA around a 4, but the FIP is better at a 3.37. So I'm not really worried about him moving forward. But Jose Barrios, he's been up and down. FIP is almost near a 5. You know, Scherzer, you know, he's been injured for pretty much the entire year. He's thrown 3 innings. Bowden Francis, you know, he was looking promising last year, but he hasn't done too much so far this year. He's giving up a lot of home runs, 2.68 home runs per 9. So I'm just a little iffy with this rotation. And like I said, the Blue Jays, they are holding their own as of right now. Now, if they were to start falling back at some point, they got a few guys that I think could definitely be trade candidates. Now, we've talked about Bo Bichette at nauseum on this channel before. Remember, he was a trade deadline candidate last year, but he wasn't really performing very well. He's having a lot of injuries, so he ended up staying put. But this year, like I said, having a bounce back year, and he's going to be a free agent after this year. So I could definitely see a team looking at Bo Bichette and thinking, hey, you know, we got to improve our lineup a little bit. Bo Bichette will definitely help us out. He's hitting 289, 335 on base, slugging up above a 400, WRC plus at 114. So, you know, he can play shortstop. I'm sure he can play second base for another team if they needed that. So Bo Bichette, of course, could be a trade candidate, again, if the Blue Jays do fall back. But I'm looking at a couple other guys here. You know, maybe someone like Kevin Gosman, who I just mentioned earlier, you know, veteran starter. He's going to be a free agent after next season. So could you maybe see something with him? Remember, Zach Eflin, he's going to be a free agent after this year. But remember, the Rays traded him last trade deadline to the Orioles. So could you see a similar situation here with Gosman? He would be a great addition for any other team's rotation out there looking to compete for a postseason spot. And then you got someone like Chris Bassett as well. You know, he's been very good this year. ERA at a 2.83, FIP at a 2.9. .99 over 10 starts. A very solid veteran addition for a lot of rotations out there. He's got postseason experience, so I could maybe see him or Gausman being candidates, apart from the usual suspect in Bo Bichette. But again, we got to wait and see what happens with the Blue Jays here, so we'll keep our eyes on it. Speaking of the Red Sox, let's talk about them. Now, like I said, the Blue Jays are in second place, and the Red Sox are right behind them in third. One game under 500 with a record of 25-26, 6 back in the division, 3 back in the wild card race. Now, coming into the season, there were a lot of expectations for the Red Sox. They had a big offseason, signing Alex Bregman, trading for Garrett Crochet, made a few other moves to beef up the team, but so far, they've been very inconsistent, very up and down. They just fully haven't clicked yet, but I do expect the Red Sox to be buyers by the deadline, especially after the aggressive offseason they had. The fan base wants the Red Sox to be a contender again, so I expect the Red Sox to be buyers, but I wonder if there could be a deal made to where they can maybe sell off a guy, but bring something else back in to help balance out the team and maybe get on the right track here. Now, let me explain. Offensively, they're 11th overall. Now, there's been nights where they look great, but then there's other nights where they look absolutely terrible, like the other night when they struck out 16 times against the Mets. Now, taking a look at some of the individual seasons so far, Raffy's been doing great as of late after a slow start. Bregman's been one of the best players in baseball. Wilyer Abreu's been solid this year. Carlos Narvaez has been a nice surprise. Jarren Duran has been heating up as of late, but Christian Campbell, he's been cold as of late. Trevor Story's basically been a black hole in this lineup. Tristan Casas is out for the year, and Ceddanne Rafaela got hot not too long ago, but really with him moving forward, you're just expecting the elite defense out in center field and the speed. So there's some ups and downs with this lineup right now, but I wonder if the Red Sox at some point turn to the number one prospect in baseball, Roman Anthony. This guy is killing it down in AAA. He's hitting .316, a .449 on base, a .959 OPS overall. He should not be at AAA right now. He should be with the Red Sox. Also, there's Marcelo Meyer, but I'm focused on Roman Anthony right now. But the problem is where do you put him in this lineup? You already got your starting outfield, Jarren Duran, Wilyer Abreu, and Ceddanne Rafaela. Rafi Devers doesn't want to move to first base, so you're not going to be able to open up the DH spot. So that's going to be a bit of an issue. Now, I'll get back to that in just a second. Let's talk about the starting pitching. They're 16th overall in the starting pitching F4. Now, Garrett Crochet, he's been amazing this year, but behind him, there's been a lot of ups and downs. Tanner Houck, he's gotten shelled on multiple occasions. Brian Bale, he's having trouble going deep into games. Lucas Giolito's been up and down since coming off the IL. Walker Buehler, Richard Fitz, they've been dealing with injuries. Hunter Dobbins has been pretty solid as a rookie, but you can't count on him to be the number 2. So I wonder if the Red Sox at some point look to add some starting pitching behind Garrett Crochet, and I wonder if a deal could be made for someone like Jarren Duran, Wilyer Abreu, or Ceddanne Rafaela. I have talked about this before. Jarren Duran, he's their leadoff guy, so I don't expect the Red Sox to move him, and he's been heating up as of late. Wilyer Abreu's been very solid for them. He's going to give you good defense out in right field, has a good arm out there. So I look at someone like Ceddanne Rafaela, where he has that great defense. He could definitely improve another team's defense out there in center field. So either way, these guys have value, so I wonder if you can capitalize on that value to help bring in some starting pitching. That could open up a spot for Roman Anthony and kind of balance out this team a little bit. I think they're just lacking a little bit of balance, so we'll just have to wait and see. Now, I don't expect the Red Sox to be sellers by any means. I do expect them to buy, but I wonder if they could get creative here. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Reds. Now, coming into the season, there were some high hopes for the Reds. They hired the new manager, Terry Francona, one of the best of all time, and a lot of good young talent on this team, but up to this point, they just haven't fully clicked. They're 25-26, 5.5 back in the division, 3.5 back in the wild card race. Now, I think they could go on a run because, like I said, they have talent, but they got a lot of beef to work with in the National League here, and I am a little weary about some of the numbers. Now, starting pitching wise, they've been great. They're 4th overall in starting pitching Fangraph WAR. Hunter Green has been excellent this year despite missing a couple of starts. Nick Martinez has really stepped up. Nick Lodolo's looking solid. Andrew Abbott's looking a lot better from last year. Brady Singer, sure, ERA's high, but the FIP is a little bit lower, and he's giving you innings in the 5th spot there. So overall, very good rotation. Now, for the bullpen, I'm a little weary about it. Alexis Diaz lost the closer role. Emilio Pagani got put into that spot. Now, 18th overall, a 3.30 ERA. That's very solid, but the FIP is at a 4.39. So I just wonder what the Reds bullpen is going to look like moving forward. But when it comes to the offense, I'm a little worried about this offense. Now, they're 23rd overall. Now, like I said, they have talent, but some of these guys are really underperforming. Now, Elly De La Cruz, sure, he's hitting for some pop. He's stealing bases like his usual self, but OPS only at a 721. Matt McClain is really struggling this year. OPS under a 600. Tyler Stevenson, same thing. Spencer Steer, OPS at a 615. Now, sure, Austin Hayes, he's been very good. Gavin Lux has been pretty solid for the most part, but they're just getting a lot of bats underperforming here. So I'm just wondering about this offense moving forward. Now, if they were to become sellers, I think they got a few guys that would definitely interest a few other teams. Nick Martinez, who I mentioned earlier, he's really stepped up this year. 10 starts, ERA at a 3.43, FIP at a 3.22. I think he could really help out a lot of teams out there. Taylor Rogers, he's been a solid veteran bullpen guy, ERA at a 1.47. Emilio Pagan, who I mentioned, he's been doing a pretty decent job in the closer role. And Austin Hayes, like I said, he's been hitting very well this year. He did miss a little bit of time, but look at these numbers as a 146 WRC plus. So the Reds do have some trade pieces if they were to go that route. Since we're on the NL Central, I got to bring up the Cardinals. They've been playing some great baseball. They got red hot recently, and they're in second place in the Central, 27-23, 3 back in the division, 1 back in the wild card race. Now, with the Cardinals coming into the year, there weren't really a whole lot of expectations because in the offseason, they were looking to make some moves and trade away some guys to help clear some payroll, open up playing time for some of the younger guys, and they're going to be going to Chaim Bloom as the new president of baseball operations after this coming year. So a lot of people were looking at this coming season as a transition year for the Cardinals. Now, again, they're playing great baseball. Offense has been solid. They're getting good pitching as well, both in the rotation and in the bullpen. But again, you just wonder, what are the Cardinals going to look like in the next month or so? Because coming into the year, there just weren't a whole lot of expectations for them. Now, again, playing great baseball, but if they were to fall back here, they definitely have some guys, right? Nolan Arenado, we've talked about him at nauseum on this channel. We were thinking he was going to get moved all off season, ended up staying put. Now, with the bat, still not really a whole lot, but you know you're going to get great defense out of him. On the starting pitching side of things, you got Sonny Gray, who's been pretty solid this year. He'll definitely help out a lot of rotations out there. Now, the problem with Arenado and Gray is they're making a lot of money, so that would definitely come into play. Now, you got a few other guys, Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis in the rotation. Both these guys are going to be free agents after this coming year, so they could be decent rentals for some teams out there. And when it comes to the bullpen, Ryan Helsley, we all thought he was going to get traded this past offseason, but here he is with the Cardinals, and he's pitching great. ERA at 2.81, 16 games. He's definitely going to improve a lot of teams' bullpens out there. But again, the Cardinals are playing great baseball, but if they were to fall back, I would expect these names to come up. Let's talk about the Texas Rangers. They were my World Series pick coming into the year, but here they are, 1 game under 500, 25-26, 4 games back in the division, 3 back in the wild card race. Now, there's a lot of talent on this team. That's why I picked them to go to the World Series. They got bats all over the place. They got some good starting pitching. The bullpen was improved this past offseason, but the offense has been so bad this year, they ended up changing their offensive coordinator, which I thought was only in football, but hey, whatever. Now, with the Rangers, you just worry about the bats because they just haven't really been able to do all that much. Now, on the pitching side of things, they've been fantastic, but if they can't fully get their act together, I could definitely see them moving some guys, right? Tyler Mahle, this is a guy where he got Tommy John recently. He's coming back here this year, fully healthy. 10 starts so far. He's been fantastic. ERA at a 1.47, FIP a little bit higher at a 3.08, but this is a veteran guy that could definitely help out some teams. He's a free agent after this coming year, so he'd be a rental. I could definitely see him getting moved. Chris Martin, he's been fantastic in the bullpen. He's on a 1-year deal. ERA at a 1.83, FIP right around the same at a 1.86. You got Hobie Milner. He's been very good in the bullpen. Shawn Armstrong, not great with the numbers, but still, a guy that could help out a bullpen out there. And even someone like Patrick Corbin, they brought in on a 1-year, $1 million deal. ERA is at a 3.59. We haven't seen his ERA look like that in a long, long time. Now the FIP is at a 4.84. So I wonder if a team would want to take a chance on Patrick Corbin, but he's cheap. Again, we'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, the offense has been very underperforming this year. So let's see if they can get their act together. But if not, I could definitely see them making some moves. Let's talk about Nathaniel Lowe. Now, the Nationals just traded for Lowe this past offseason. They were hoping to get back into contention, but right now they're not looking all that great. But I still saw a scenario where Lowe would be helpful for them in 2026 because he still had a couple of years of team control. But I wonder if the Nationals could end up moving him before that because they recently got a phone call from a team out there asking if he was available. People think it was the Red Sox because Tristan Casas went down. Wouldn't be surprised if it was them. Who knows? Maybe it was someone else. But I wonder with Lowe, who's a guy who's had a pretty solid bat in the past, could end up getting moved because he still does have value. It just comes down to what do the Nationals want to do? Do they want to hang on to him to try and help them contend for next year, or maybe just try to cash in on the value? Well, right now, the offense is a little through 50 games. He's only hitting 222, 92 on the WRC+, but again, has a good track record. Maybe he can end up getting moved. And last but not least, let's talk about Freddie Peralta. Now, every year the Brewers are in contention. They somehow, some way find a way to get the job done, even if the team isn't looking all that strong. Remember last year they traded away Corbin Burns to the Orioles, and they still found a way to win the division. Here they are, one game under 500 though, 25-26, 5.5 back in the division, 3.5 back in the wild card race. Now, I like a lot about their team. They got a pretty solid lineup if you ask me, but when it comes to the starting pitching, they're very thin. So I wonder what the Brewers are going to be looking like as we get closer to the deadline. And I wonder, even though they want to contend as much as possible, I wonder if this could be a scenario where maybe they cash in on Freddie Peralta, who is one of the better pitchers in baseball. 10 games so far this year, ERA at 2.59, FIP at 3.67. Now, he's on a very cheap deal, a 6-year, $22 million deal that runs through 2025, has a club option for 2026, so he has some control there. This is a guy that could be an ace of the rotation out there or be a very good number 2. So Freddie Peralta, I'd say keep your eyes out for him. This guy's one of the better pitchers in baseball for a while now. And I wonder if there's ever a year where the Brewers look to cash in, minus the year from Josh Hader, they had Devin Williams waiting in the wings behind him. So a little different there. But with Freddie Peralta, it could be interesting because teams are going to be looking for starting pitching. And if the Brewers aren't in it, then why not looking to see, what you could get back for him? You would definitely get back a very good package. But everybody, that's all I got for right now. Those are some of the surprise trade candidates that I think could maybe come up at this year's deadline. Let me know some other possible candidates down below in the comments that you think could be surprising. But everybody, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.